So this morning, I think both of us saw a video. Brian Wang, nice to see you.
Nice to see you. Yep.
We saw a video that Warren Redlick put out. And we're a big fan of Warren. Both of us big fan of Warren's. Warren was, I think, maybe the first person ever to appear on my show. And it was quite an interesting presentation that he made about the future unit sales and dollar sales and profits that are going to be associated with
AI6 and AI5.
inference,
Yep.
with AI chips
Inference, yeah.
6, or with inference in general. I think it would be, maybe we could say inference chips in general, but AI 6, which will probably be the leading chip, at least according to Elon.
Yeah.
So where I'd love to start on this is that I want to go back in history. Let's go back in the Wayback Machine. I know usually we're looking into the future, you and I, but I want to go back because, gosh, over a year ago, I remember somebody named Brian Wang who was saying that the Tesla's number one business of the future, or the thing that might make them the number one company in the world, would be the chips, the Dojo chips.
Mhm.
And that at that time we were looking at them more as training and inference.
Mhm.
But you felt that they would pass NVIDIA.
Possibly, yes.
You said that several times.
Yeah.
I didn't see anybody else following you on that except me. I agree with you. Now, maybe some of the other channels that you were on at the same time might have agreed with you, but it made total sense to me that if the Dojo chip was that good, it would eventually, and with Elon's manufacturing prowess, he could pass NVIDIA in terms of dollars sold and maybe dollars earned. Um, so that was, kind of you all by yourself out there.
Mhm.
But then I'm going to take a little bow because I think you and I were on the show together just a couple of weeks ago when Elon started talking about the AI 6 chip and talking about that it was this maybe a month ago, I don't know, 3, 4 weeks ago.
Mhm.
And he said, "Oh, no, we're not going to do Dojo the way we were going to do it.
Mhm.
We're going to do it based on inference."
Mhm.
He didn't even say, and he didn't really actually say Dojo was going to be based on inference. He said, "We're going to make this chip, this inference chip, and we're going to use that for Dojo." But he
Mhm.
didn't really say much more about how that would look.
Right.
And I said, "Well, that makes total sense."
Mhm.
I think because I'd learned from you. And I'm like, "Oh, that would mean to me the same thing you've been saying. He can take that as an inference chip, which Jensen has talked about being 99% of the future business."
Right.
And once again, that's what Warren's trying to say this morning, making Tesla maybe the largest company by volume and profits based on just the AI 6 chip. Did I
Right.
get all that right?
Yeah. That's basically correct. Yes. And then the other part would be that I've looked at the production of AI5, which is not out yet. AI5 is going to be next year,
Right.
and then AI6 will be 2 or 3 years down the road. Um, and we know now some more performance specs around AI5, but they could move. It's still not being built yet. Um, we know that AI5 is being made by TSMC, and then we can estimate how much volume they can get from that, which is probably about 10 to 20% of the particular wafers that they're doing. And then you can make 50 to 100 chips from wafers. So I've backed into how many chips there are on the AI5 side. And then the Samsung deal for AI6 means that they can go to 50, 80, push to very close to 100%, especially in the new factories.
Mhm.
They
Yeah.
can say, okay, we're making a new factory pretty much for you guys in Texas. You know, we'll go to town and probably give you, if you can use everything, and I'm sure Elon wants to use everything, use 100% of those chips, which would then be another 5x or more in terms of the volume that they could do for the if TSMC was still their partner, because TSMC has to sell to everyone else. Um, so that also gives us ways to back into that. Um, Warren did an interesting job with estimating tokens and stuff as to how much needed for a particular task. Um, for me, I look at it in terms of what's the really big unlimited things of high value that you could use with those chips. And I believe that once we crack fully automated coding, programmer coding of like instead of human programmer coding, you have AI coding, then it becomes like Robotaxi. It's like right now we have driver assist, where humans driving assisted by the system.
Mhm.
Right now we have programmer coding assisted by the AIs. Although some small simple cases where you can just have it run and it makes the whole thing, right? But getting to the point where everything in coding becomes turned over, then that becomes a generalized system where people say, well, can AI really do it? If you convert it into code, the code can be tested. It can be 100% accurate. It's no longer as Jason Calacanis or Chamath talk about. It's not a probabilistic statistical system where it works 99% of the time and not 1%. With coding, you can make it, coding is 100% accurate now, right? So if I do the work and then I convert it into unlimited perfect code and I can test it, then there's the gap of, you know, NASA space quality, no errors, kind of thing happens. So then the unlimited value like that. Go ahead.
Okay, so as I kept on thinking about this, and I want to come back to the details.
Mhm.
I wanted to go to the broad idea first.
Mhm.
So I think what Warren was saying, and I think I'm encapsulating it. He went on and on, but I think I'm encapsulating it. Every single car in the future will need one of these chips,
Or four of them, yes.
or four of them, or however many. Yes.
Yeah.
And is that what Elon said? Four chips? Now, here's what let's come back to this in a minute. I want to come back and talk
Yeah.
about this. All right. So every single car needs a chip.
Yeah.
Every single bot, every single humanoid bot, not just Tesla's cars, not just Tesla's humanoid bots, every single bot, every single car needs a chip. Now, it may not need a Tesla chip, but it needs somebody's chip to run it.
Right.
It needs inference to run.
Right.
Okay. Then every single tractor, every single truck, every single anything that moves, according to Jensen Huang, everything that moves is going to need a chip. Now, they might not all need this $5,000 chip, but everything that moves is going to need a chip. Is that?
Yes, correct.
You see it?
Yeah.
All right. So it would be easy to say, therefore, if everything that moves needs a chip, and then you also need a whole bunch of chips on the other side too, on the digital space side, not just on the
Physical world side.
not on the physical world side, but you need them on the digital world side too. It would be pretty easy to say inference chips probably will be the number one product in the entire world in terms of sales and profits.
Yes.
But then I started thinking, wait a minute, almost all those things are going to need batteries too.
Yeah.
So therefore, will batteries be the number one product in the entire world? Because maybe the dollar amount and the profit of the batteries in all of these products will be greater than the inference. And then I started thinking, well, every one of these things you have to feed electricity into it.
Yeah.
So will electricity be the number one product in the world, which it already is, on the level of, I'm sure, I know. I don't think electricity right now is number one, but oil, all of the top companies in the world used to be oil companies.
Yeah. Yeah. About
So
10% of the world economy. Yeah.
something like that. Yeah. So energy, in this case, electricity. So, gosh, that kind of positions Tesla
Yeah. Yeah. Really well. Yes.
very, very well.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was what was going on in my mind. Now we can get into details if you want, or you can
Yeah.
tell me I'm nuts or whatever.
No. So basically, compute by physics needs energy, right?
Right.
So the more compute I have, then it's correlated like by physics
Right.
to energy, and then you can get more efficient up to a certain point. And there's two ways to do something called reversible computing and non-reversible computing, which about a million scale difference on that. We do not have a reversible computing yet, although there have been some lab things related to it. That basically, if I do it in a way that cannot be reversed, it generates heat.
Okay.
Right. So it's like this is like total physics. It's like you cannot escape from these particular laws,
Right.
right? It's like, it's like, it's not some kind of like um, rule of thumb, as Elon says, first principles, you
Right.
know,
It's
the only law, the law of physics, right? So these are kind of laws of physics happening.
energy equals intelligence equals wealth.
Yeah, yeah,
It's kind of the underlying principle of our book.
right, right, right.
Yeah.
So basically then, and that goes to when Elon talks about, hey, we're going to capture all the energy from the sun, which is, all the Earth, all the Mars, and then all the energy of the sun, and then convert that into computing, right? That is one of those visions of where unlimited intelligence, versus unlimited intelligence versus unlimited energy is what you have. So then when people say, well, do you want to buy this product, that product? And then no, only humans need to buy products, and we've discussed that, right?
Right.
Is that no, if you start creating your own completely artificial thing, but they're like an intelligent than human or more intelligent than humans, and they're doing human tasks, the, they will need to consume these physical things. They'll need to consume the chips, like you say, need to consume electricity. And so basically, the chips, depending on whatever they're in, you can just count the chips. And then and then what they're doing, that becomes, I say, a simplified thing. That's what Warren tried to do. And that's what we're saying here, that you can stop, you don't have to worry about, well, what is the chip in? It's like, how many can I make? Can they make money? If everything becomes productive, then that is the simplified form of figuring out, okay, we make 1 trillion chips, they're each doing this, and as long as there's a infinite demand bucket, like intelligence, like coding,
Right.
then you say, okay, then we keep going, we
Yeah.
keep scaling up.
Okay, so then just one more. I'm sorry, I said I was done, but I
Yeah.
did think of this also because it kind of hit me at the same time, which is um, about 12, 15 years ago. Who knows anymore? You can't figure. Anyway, a long time ago, I read an article and it said, if you want to know how wealthy you are individually, go around your house and count the number of motors.
Mhm.
The more motors you have in the house, the more upper class you are.
Mhm. Right.
So now, so we've talked about electricity, we've talked about chips, we've talked about batteries. Well, okay, every bot is going to have, I don't know, 50 motors.
Yeah.
Every vehicle has, I don't know, multiple motors.
Yeah.
Every one of these every one of the vehicles that will eventually have these chips will have at least as many motors as they have now.
Yeah.
So maybe it will be motors, but again, Tesla is going to make lots and lots and lots and lots of their own motors. They already make motors, but they're going
Yeah.
to make lots more.
If you go back in time, I mean, we said you can go back in time to before um, industrial revolution, all that kind of stuff. So then, how do you count wealth? You count wealth by how many horses does someone have? How many head of cattle do they
Right,
have?
right,
How many servants do they have? Right.
right,
So then you can say, how many Tesla cars or cars do I have? And those are your horses.
right.
How many Tesla bots do I have? Those become your virtual servants. So kind of like your Downton Abbey kind of thing. Of you have a massive mansion, you have land, you have energy coming in, and then you have so many cars in the garage. Those are your horses, and then you have so many human bots, so many other machines. It becomes the modern equivalent of that. So if you go to the details of the motors, that might be a proxy for how complicated, how expensive it is, or the chips. If that's the primary cost, going to the point of like, is it the chips that are most expensive? I would say probably more yes than the batteries. Then you would say, okay, that becomes the main thing to count. Because if you think that's $5,000, then the other parts are heading towards $10 per kilogram, per kilowatt versus
Yeah,
100. Right? We're going down to that. So that's dropping fast. And then there's other stuff keeping the need for a more powerful chip higher. Although you can see a world where um, if there's a bunch of good enough chips to do things, that can become very cheap too. And
yeah,
then the whole thing of the all the physical things heading towards, um, I would say something like the cost. If you had nanotechnology, I could move the molecules everywhere. And I, you know, 20 some years ago, I would go to those deep nanotechnology conferences talking about
Yeah.
what happens when you can move atoms around, right? Atoms and molecules around.
Yeah.
That idea was that the cheapest bulk form of produced product. So I can grow potatoes. They're molecularly precise, they're a particular thing. So then the weight of potatoes is it. They can make complex electronics, but because complexity doesn't no longer have cost or much cost, it's still everything is potatoes.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So then it's like I'm all physical objects are potatoes, but then I must to your point power my potato, and
Yeah.
then I must do whatever. So then because complexity, once we solve everything, then we can embed enough intelligence, but it becomes like free software, right?
Yeah, 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 which it is now.
Yeah.
So, which nobody would have thought, 2 years ago, nobody would have thought we'd have free software that your 4-year-old could
Mhm.
vibe.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see here. Okay, so I just had a conversation with Larry Goldberg. People should definitely go back and watch Larry and my conversation that was earlier today. And one of the things that came up in it was, okay, the car chip today. Everybody knows it costs $1,000. I double checked that with Grok. Yes, it costs $1,000. Okay. The AI6 chip is going to cost 5 or 6 thousand.
Hmm.
I'm like, what?
Yeah.
So Grok says, well, it's going to have a lot more capability. I'm thinking, man. So nobody seems to know what the AI5 chip is going to cost, whether that'll be 1,000 or
No, no,
two.
I think he was pretty much saying that that would also be 5,000, if I
It'll
can
also
say
be
that. He was
5,000.
really talking 5, 6,000 for the AI5 chip, and they did not give a price for the AI6 chip. We
I
just
see.
assume it's going to be that.
I see.
And then the other thing would be that the NVIDIA H100 and the B200s, their best AI chips, they're in the range of $40,000 each, right? They're $40,000 each. But NVIDIA's saying, I have 75% margin.
Yeah.
It costs them $10,000, right?
Right.
So if you end up having competition in more normalish but still high tech margins, you say, okay, it cost me 10, I sell it for 15, right? But for Elon, when he says 5 or 6, he's saying 5 or 6 for Tesla,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So then he's not saying I'm not selling you the chip
No, no,
other than
no.
in a product,
Yeah, it was
right?
just cost. Yeah.
Right. It's my cost. So I'm roughly half the cost
Right.
of a B200,
Right.
right? So I'm competing inside of the chip. I'm making it half the cost, but still pretty close to it being competitive. Maybe it's half as good, maybe it's a third as good, but it's half the cost. It's in the range of a B200.
So here's where I get confused, and this is what I couldn't figure out is we're going to have we think a $16,000 cost cybercab.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
We've been thinking, and of course it's going to have an AI4 chip, maybe an AI5, but probably an AI4 chip,
You have to
right?
start with AF4. If it's starting December, January, AF5 not ready till end of the year.
So it's going to
And then
cost
next year.
so the chip's going to be $1,000 and it's going to be a $16,000 vehicle. Well, if they switch over to the AI5 chip in a year, then all of a sudden you're adding $4,000 or more to the cost of the cybercab. You're going to want to get a lot of value. I'm talking about not necessarily the consumer. The consumer, well, it'll be kind of invisible to the consumer, but Tesla is going to want a lot of value. What in the world is that chip going to do to make it that much more valuable? And or would there be applications for this new AI5 chip and you would still make AI4 chips for
No, no, no. They're going
no
to go to AF5 all the time.
100%?
So,
Okay.
so here's the value of
Okay.
it.
Okay.
So go to AF5, 10 times better. It's a petaflop chip or something. I put two of them in. So I'm in the petaflop range, right? So that's, maybe four petaflops, the H100-ish in terms of power, right? So I'm going for this chip. As you said, I only need, fifth or something like that if it was going to be just Robotaxi. right? So that I overload it because I'm going to send it tasks. I'm going to send it, Tesla's going to send a task, and they know XAI has all these tasks, training, inference, the inference being on the coding side, inference being on mastering Tesla bot, right? So they will have, there'll be use cases, clear revenue generation that, could end up being $10,000, $20,000 per year.
Okay, so
Way, yeah,
let me back up and let's say this again so everybody's extremely clear.
yeah.
So you're not saying that this chip will give the owner of the vehicle more applications to make the car run better, safer, able to communicate with the people that are in the car better. It's not going to do anything to make the ride better or the car itself better. It might make it a little bit better,
Yeah.
but you're not saying that. No, you're saying that this will now become part of an inference giant, massive
Web,
computer,
yeah,
a web of computer that Tesla will then pay the owner of the vehicle for
right.
the time that it uses on that machine. Okay.
When it is driving around,
Mhm.
if it needs to use its full powers,
Mhm.
it will do so.
Right.
If you drive around, need to use it. If you end up playing, people always talk about, some video game, Quake or something,
Right.
you know, Quake 100,
Right.
right? I need to use all the power. Then if you want it, you use it, it's fine. It's using everything. And are there cases when it does? Yeah, there'll probably be cases when it does. Maybe 2%, 5% of the time, right? And if you're driving around all the time doing Robotaxi, it's using a steady state of needing, 10, 20% or whatever. But if it needs, again, things get crazy, it can go up higher because it's there. Your needs in the car are priority,
Right.
right? But even when you're doing robotaxi and that, you do not get over a 50% utilization. Just I have to move around, other stuff. You're not using it all. And when you are using it, it's because um, it's become easy to do. It's like I'm driving around in the car, I can talk on the phone, I can do some stuff. Maybe I shouldn't, but people can do other things because you're in. I'm driving and it's no problem. I'm half conscious thinking about it.
Right.
Same thing for the software, right? So then what are you using? Why dump in this extra power, this extra $4,000 of power? It's because I want this distributed AI data center everywhere around the world. And if I didn't do that, I could end up making a 10 million chip data center that costs $300 billion, right? But
Yeah.
if I say, okay, I'm making an extra $4,000 and I'm selling it to you,
Yeah.
by the way, you decided it's so wonderful that you pay me a profit for it.
Yeah.
Now I have profitably created a $300 billion data center distributed around the world. It doesn't need its own 10 nuclear power plants.
Right.
It's using solar on every house to power it up,
Right.
right? So it makes the distribution of making this thing easier. It's also how you get to a terawatt. How do you double up the power of the United States with a terawatt, right? If 3 kilowatt hours for every Tesla bot, let's assume Tesla bots be majority thing and not the vehicles. Maybe a mix. I'm
Yeah. Yeah.
simplifying.
Yeah. Yeah.
Simplifying. 95% of it is, or 98% of it is bots. So 300 million bots, each with about 3 kilowatts, 3,000 watts of power. That's your terawatt, right? And then I have chips out there at 300 million times $5,000. That would be 300 billion, 1.5 trillion, $1.5 trillion worth of stuff. But I have like 300 million of these chips out there. 300 million times 30 billion, because right now it's about 30 billion per million chip, right? Or 40 billion per million chip, right? Then it's 300 million times 30, I think like 90 trillion. So it would have cost, even if 5 times cheaper, 20 trillion, something like that, it would cost 7 times, 10 times more to shove it all in one spot somehow, right? So it's cheaper, more efficient, more feasible to get it all everywhere. And I send you the problems to do, and I get like 80% of the time, you're ready to answer to do my stuff.
And then once again, absolutely no one else has this capability or could possibly have this possibility in the short term.
Right, in the short term. Yeah. You need to
So,
figure out
so
a business model where you can sell chip, one, you can make the chip, do the
right,
stuff, and then you have to be able to sell them properly with some kind of mechanism.
right.
Right.
So Toyota, for instance, who does 10 million cars a year, if they would start right now designing in a chip into their cars,
Mhm.
it would take them years just to catch up to the to where Tesla is now on the project.
Mhm.
And they wouldn't also have a bunch of robots running around.
Right.
If the robot companies that are basically getting off the ground right now could even keep up with Tesla, they wouldn't have the cars.
Yeah.
So it's like there's no way that anybody, and again, it might be one of those unlimited TAM situations also, where
Mhm.
at least for the foreseeable future, it wouldn't matter if 15 people all were doing this in their cars and the robots because there would be enough inference com
Demand.
compute need
Right.
from these networks.
Yep. That's right.
Well, okay.
Mhm.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah.
This is pretty wild. Okay, so um, yeah, okay. So you don't think even when the AI 6 comes out that there will be applications for the AI 5? Like the AI 5 might come down in cost as they make lots and lots of them? Would there be situations where the new AI 6, especially when they're spooling up, they maybe, keep the AI 5 in certain applications, use AI 6 and
I think it probably can go back a generation, where, it's thinking like, if I use I can use an older iPhone, like iPhone 17 comes out, people kept 5 or 6 generations back. But if you think back to the earlier days, right, when um, iPhone 1 comes out, you know, everyone wants to switch to iPhone 2, right?
right,
iPhone
right,
3 comes out, everyone wants to switch.
right.
It was only after things kind of like plateaued out. But when you're getting two, three times better each time,
Yeah.
then you really want to switch, right? Like early days of PCs, your 8086, yeah, 82, 86, you had
It was
these
like it was more like every 3 or 4 years on computers. You,
initially it was more like every 2 years, right? And it would be a huge jump,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, and then more efficient, more powerful. It's kind of like um, you were really, the utility was still there on the older version, but it's far more less likely that you would need it. So um, I think you could still use AI5s in most situations as you go to AI6, but no one will be saying, hey, I need to still use AI4, right? Totally outdated. And then when I get to AI7, then I really, the AI5 is meaningless. One, it's like 20 times less powerful, so it's only 5% anyway, right? And it's less energy efficient because they're making all these changes to make it better, right? So, and like right now, like I just bought, uh, you know, a Model 3, a new one, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And really part of the decision was, hey, I want AI4 in it versus
Okay. Yes.
AI3. I think,
Yeah.
can I save enough money by going down to 3 years, something like that,
Right.
like,
Right.
have to be a 2023 and stuff like that. And it's kind of like, not really worth it. It
Yeah.
became
Yeah.
too, even though like, even if they update it, it's kind of like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Okay. So now the other day, you and I had a long, long conversation. I think this was, I think it was on a video, but I'm not positive because we have long conversations off video also.
yeah.
But I think we had this long conversation on video where we were talking about the bandwidth that was just purchased
Mhm.
by SpaceX and the implications of that, and how SpaceX will probably eventually want to buy even more of this bandwidth as they become more and more dominant in terms of the telecommunications company of space. Eventually, though, that'll also, I think, take over ground, cable, etc., because it just won't make any sense to be putting in new cable, and maybe it'll even be better than existing cable. But in that transitionary period, will we want every single car to communicate with these satellites?
Satellites. Yeah. We will want every device to
Every device.
talk, every device to talk to space.
Okay.
Yeah, to talk to each other. right? You can think of it like um, we have a lab, a factory, a warehouse, right? And then you have Wi-Fi everywhere, right?
Right.
And then all the devices are connected to Wi-Fi, all the devices are connected to Bluetooth, everything is connected, right? Then by having the satellites able to send communication everywhere, it's like I have global Wi-Fi, right?
Okay.
So then sometimes you would not, some things I don't want hooked up to Wi-Fi, right?
Oh,
But if I have a phone, if I have a laptop, if I have my refrigerator, my washing machine, whatever, they're all hooked up to Wi-Fi, right? So it's basically like if I don't have it, it's in my house and it's not hooked up to Wi-Fi, that would be something that wouldn't be hooked up to satellites. But if it's something that's comparable to what today is hooked up
mhm.
to my Wi-Fi,
Right.
I would want it connected in the future to the satellites. I want to connect everywhere.
Part of that would be the promise, the future promise that if all the cars are hooked up to Wi-Fi, then accidents completely end because all the cars are now being
Communicate with each other,
directly
knowing
communicating where they are, etc.
yeah, I'm going here, you go there. We don't run into each other. Beyond just it's like right now, humans have accidents. I couldn't mind read what that guy was going to do.
Right,
He just we went squirrely. Even
right,
though, we may be doing something safe, I didn't know he didn't see me, right?
right.
But now this becomes mind reading between the devices. They know, yeah, I'm going to turn here, you're going to turn there. And just when everything's smart, all these accidents are utterly, completely eliminated down to the last one. It's no longer, I'm depending on the fact that I have computer vision and a brain that's 5 times better. So we get access down 10 times, 20 times. It's like, and now we can communicate to each other, and now we go down to zero.
So,
Zero access. Yeah.
so in other words, at this time in the future, the cars will themselves be as good at driving as the Indian drivers are in Mumbai, in those streets where there's just chaos, and somehow they get through without an accident.
No, there will be no chaos.
I just,
Yeah.
I'm playing,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's amazing. It's shocking
Yeah.
in those cities that there's not an accident a minute.
Yeah.
But it's because everybody's so aware
Yeah.
and they're so used to trying to negotiate through those things. But yeah,
Right.
yeah. All right. Holy mackerel. I mean, it's just like
Mhm.
this is fascinating to contemplate.
Mhm.
Okay, so 5,000. So then Elon had said two chips in the computer and in the Optimus, but four chips in the car.
Right.
And Grok explained that to me that the two chips in the Optimus probably really means one and one backup. So it's not really two chips. It's like they are now. Apparently they are now. One
Mhm.
is in shadow mode or in backup mode or whatever. Is that,
Mhm.
do you understand it?
I think it's
You know what, your mic is loud or
can you, sorry.
was fine a minute ago, but
Okay. Can you hear me? Is it good now?
oh, I can hear you. It's just
You got too loud. I raised my voice something. Okay. I don't think that we can know. Like just like they changed the AI5 chip, like they were saying before, oh, it's gonna be 4 times better, this and that, and now it's gonna be, 10 times better. The design is still in motion.
I see.
We don't know what they're going to do,
Okay.
right? Because they haven't locked in what they're going to do, right?
Okay.
It's just like, oh, it's Tesla bought Optimus. It's going to be just like that, and then they go to two more versions or three more versions. We got 2, 2.5, 3. It's like the Tesla is rapidly iterating, and so they haven't locked in. So not like, oh, I can speculate. I know they must be doing this when like they're moving it around themselves.
All right. So unless you've got more on this subject, I want to give an Easter egg to all the people who stayed in
Okay.
this fun. Okay, we're
Okay.
getting
Good.
okay because maybe we should have started with this, but and it'll probably be the thumbnail. We got to 496. I'm sorry, 396 today.
Yeah.
Certainly that was within your and my calculations. I
Hmm.
think Nicholas Gibbs, however, gets the prize this time for completely hitting it out of the park because he called the day. I called the day only one day before, but that's still good.
Yeah.
Nick is a prize for that one. Okay, so we're 496. We're going into next week with the Fed decision on Wednesday. What's your thinking, Mr. Futurist?
Um, well, the Fed cuts 25%, 25 basis points, right? Um, someone else has pointed out that when we've had interest rate cuts last couple of times, that was when the big moves happened. So last time, like when I made the call that we would go to, all-time highs from um, before the election, October, I'm saying, hey, we're going to go all-time highs. I think maybe said in September or something like that. Really high number by December, all-time high. Part of that was that they cut 50 basis points just before the election,
Right,
right? They cut just one, there was some expectation they would continue cutting,
right,
right? And so that also drove it up. And then when things came back down, part of it was the Elon Trump thing. And then part of it was that we got interest rate cuts, everyone's happy. And then it became that we were unhappy because they stopped cutting,
right,
right? And then before that, and that was like a 250 point move, right? We went from like 230 to 488, right?
right,
And then, so you can't really parse out how much of it was the Trump thing, how much was this, how much was that. It was the things together. Going back to before, like, I don't know, 2008, 2010, some other point, there was a 100 point move. Again, interest rates were cut. I think that was the maybe the COVID times,
Mhm.
right? So they crashed rates down because hey, COVID's happening, things are going crazy. So then rates got crashed down from 4 to 0 or something like that, and then you know everything turned around. So everything turning around was a combination of interest rates going down plus um, whatever other things people were thinking. But that was like a 100 point move, right? So if we're going to a series of cuts, 25, 25, 25, and then in May, new Fed chair, more cuts, probably another 100, 125, right? So if Tesla stayed the same, the company stayed the same, but you just have interest rate cuts, you can make the argument that those 200 basis points of cuts over 8, 9 months,
Mhm.
right? Or 10 months could be a 200 point move,
Mm.
right?
So,
So that, but we have more than that. We have the FSD-14, Robotaxi, Cybercab new car. Like there's a bunch of stuff that's going to drive this up. This goes to when I say, okay, maybe we get to 1,000, maybe we get to 1,500, maybe it's at the end of the year, maybe more likely at the middle of next year. Going to 1,500 is because it's looking like macro, these interest rate cuts are on our back, pushing us higher, along with new cars, Cybercab, energy, FSD, Robotaxi. Like it'd be so much good stuff happening
right.
that we could constantly rip it, right? But along with it would be other stuff. In terms of like next week, um, very likely we Monday a lot of FOMO. People who weren't paying attention for a day or two suddenly realize, I'm missing the boat on Tesla again. I got to pop in, right? So they'll have that to think about over the weekend, and then they bid it up. On Tuesday, we have second weekly number for Tesla
Right.
YL,
Mhm.
for China, particularly the YL, right? We are 900. Do we get to 3,000 to get to 4,000? A really nice number there, 4,000 or higher. And that could be a significant pop on the stock. And then they would think, holy crap, I was thinking they were going to have 490,000 cars, but if we get to 4,000 this week, we can get to 5,000, 6,000 next week, and then September we add an extra 15,000 cars,
Right.
right? So that would be something that would bump up the stock. Because right now the um, consensus number reported by MSNBC on Tesla for Q3 is 430,000.
Right. Right. I know. Now,
So if we have 15% more, or even 20% more,
right.
and we know, okay, we're going to blow that out, right? Totally blow that out. Then when the October 2nd number comes out, and it could also have a good energy number too, right? Then leading into it, more and more people would say the blowout's going to happen, right? Conversely, if it runs too high too fast and the blowout doesn't happen or it's somewhat disappointing relative to raised expectations, then you could have some dip afterwards.
So some people think that there is some kind of a stop at 440, some kind of a resistance at 440. Obviously, there's going to be resistance at 488 or 480, depending on whether you take the intraday or the end of the day trade. 500, of course, is a round number. And you and I are both on record for 500 by the end of the year, unless there's significant robotaxi activity. And for me, that significance would be 500 vehicles on the ground. Then I think we go to 1,000. But the analysis that you just did, and by the way, let me add to your analysis that it is common for the stock market to go down after the first rate cut. But the reason for that is because it's because it's trying to avoid a recession. There's like 2% of the economists out there that think there's going to be a recession. I mean, maybe it's 5, maybe it's 10, but it's like almost nobody. And I read everybody. So almost nobody thinks there's a recession. So this is going to be another cut, like the previous two cuts, where that's not the reason. And the reason is because it's just the right thing to do given the spreads.
Mhm.
Therefore,
Yeah.
we should expect the market to go up after this cut,
Mhm.
technically, theoretically. So
Theoretically.
I'm thinking that we might be looking at that 440 sometime next week. I
Mhm.
think it might be a technically difficult hurdle at 440. Then we could be looking at all-time highs on October 2nd.
Right. Um, I think if the animal spirits of the market and Tesla get rolling, right, then we could punch through these resistances like tissue paper,
Right.
right? So, like one, you have FOMO on the Monday, you got a good number on Tuesday, so both days are good. You got a short squeeze or something, right? And then you get a third day, right? So then, you know, Tesla can, once it's kind of rolling, boom, all time high next week, right? I'm not, that's not prediction. I'm just
Right.
saying
Good.
that theoretically it could happen that the result, and it's because it could get moving so fast. Like right now, like okay, it was hitting on 360, bump, 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 and I think, oh, maybe by the end of September we get to 400, right? We're already knocking on the door. We're like $4 away from 400, right? And it took like, another day, right? So this goes to the fact that when the sentiment shifts, right, then all the people who are saying, like, when I was talking to people, all week, right? Someone from Asia, Singapore, other places, and we're saying, oh, everyone's always saying, oh, yeah, but Tesla's so bad, like the brand damage, the reduced car sales and all that stuff, right? So the negative story is so out there. So when they have to like face reality that that story is not what happening, what we're seeing coming up, that when they all realize I was wrong again and I'm missing the boat on Tesla again, right? The ones who would want to buy the swing trade it, then they hop in, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And interestingly, you bought a Tesla. Larry is taking delivery on a new Tesla.
yeah.
Next door neighbor is getting a new Tesla. There's only 12 houses on my street, but
Hmm.
next door neighbor's getting a new Tesla, and I just saw a neighbor down the street with a brand new Tesla. That's,
Hmm.
and so there's some folks are buying Teslas, and that's California.
Hmm.
Except for Larry, of course. Larry's not California. The rest of us are California.
Hmm.
So, okay. So that is the Easter egg. I'm predicting 440 next week. You're saying 440 sounds good to you, but it could go higher, but you're not predicting that. And based on your earlier statement, going from the 320, 330 range where we were just a few weeks ago, you could imagine, I guess, a situation where we'd be at 660 by the end of the year, even if we didn't get the robotaxi with 500 or so cars on the road.
Yeah, yeah. If a bunch of the other stuff is going right. Well, one, we could hit 600 um, in October. Just from let's say we get 520, they guide an extra 100,000 in car sales for Q3 at the meeting on October 20th. The November 6th thing, the annual meeting goes great. Those, there's enough good news potential there that we could go up to 600, 650. So, but then the question would be, the issue though would be that without the earnings increase, if the macro turned against us, if some disappointments are happening, then we can come back down from 600, 700 down to like 500 or 450, right? The wild swings of like, holy crap, it went so high, it went back down. Just like we went to 488 and then we go back down to, we could have done a slightly less extreme version of what that did. We're going to 220 down to, back to 360. 48 down to 360, and in this case, 700, 600, 700 back down to 500, retesting the breakout from the all-time high, right? Could happen, right? Just whatever excuses someone needs to do the trade, right? That could happen. And then, the spiking thing moving up and down, right? So.
Okay, so I'm going to do a little recap here. For those of you who stayed this long, this is going to be, I think, an even better Easter egg.
Mhm.
Okay, and with some kudos to Warren Redlick, who has always been at least a big a bull as me. Brian Wang is definitely equal to me in being a bull. I think we should give a nod to Cern Basher, who's become as big a bull as either one of us.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure any of that's good, but I do know that it's similar. All right, so Tesla has almost certainly going to be the biggest company in the world from the standpoint of robots, which will probably be the biggest product ever in history, according to Elon Musk.
Mhm.
Yeah, Tesla will almost certainly be, according to Kathy Wood and many others, will be the biggest in robotaxis by far, which already that probably will be the biggest revenue and profit generator in history before we get to the bots. Then you've got Tesla is going to be in the inference business, according to you, and now I'm agreeing because of what they're doing with AI6, is Tesla's probably going to be the #1 inference chip maker in the world, which may be the biggest product in the world. And then Tesla is going to be making, if you make 100 million robots, you've got to make, if you make 100 million robots a year, you've got to make 5 billion motors for those 5 billion.
Yeah.
Actuators for those.
Well, no, actuators, you need like 100 times that or something, or 50 times. There's like 26 actuators per arm. Yeah.
50. I was using 50 well, it's more than 50. It's 26 per arm.
Right, 26 per arm. Yeah.
70, maybe 80. Okay, so
Yeah.
whatever. It's a lot of actuators. So they're probably, and that doesn't count the motors they're making for cars. And anyway, so they'll probably be the largest motor maker in the world. They're now making, and they're already probably in the ballpark of being the largest in terms of stationary storage in the world. Probably going to continue and be the largest in that category. Now they're going to make transformers. Will they become the largest transformer? Anyway, they've also got 3 different kinds of ways that they're making and or selling electricity to wholesalers and retailers, which is a massive, massive business in and of itself if they decide to continue to pursue those. So those are just the big businesses. Did I miss one?
I think those,
trucks.
Robotrucks, Robotaxis, yeah.
They can become the biggest trucking company in the world as well. So I don't think the street has a clue. I mean, what we just said, and none of what we just said is as crazy as the things that Warren and I were saying 2.5 years ago when almost 3 years ago when I started this program. We were saying things at that time. People go, "You guys are just nuts."
Yeah.
These things, I mean, they're like tangible. They're right there.
Well, the other thing would be that, you're already over $1 trillion, you going whatever, you got all this technology and that kind of stuff. It's like saying, back when GE was the biggest company in the world, they can't get into blah and be successful. They can't buy NBC and be successful in communications and whatever. Or Microsoft, the biggest company in the world. Microsoft can't get into blah and be successful. They're just the biggest company in the world. Apple gets because Apple can't get into whatever. They can't make AirPods and that be successful. They can't make, new products. They can't go from PCs to phones to whatever, right? And once you're dominating, then, it's just easier to keep winning. Winners keep winning, right? So, and then to say that, okay, someone who's already got when he's when people are saying he's losing and he's gotten into 10 different businesses, gotten into energy, gotten into whatever, and doing very well, that he can't launch something and make it work. It's kind of like, yeah, the guy who's made the biggest space company that does 10 times more than the country of China, the number two, and then, has also got, more energy, more this, more that than anyone else. And he's saying, yeah, I'm gonna bet against him because he's already got like it's a collection of startups, he says, and well,
But so Cern Basher did this with me, and he did it with a couple of other people. He did this little thing where we tried to value Tesla right now
mhm,
based on what it's really worth. But
yeah,
we, when we did that, we were really only basing it on robotaxis and Optimus.
mhm,
We came
right,
up with a current
mhm,
value of $3,000 a share.
right, right,
That didn't count Dojo or AI6 chips
yeah,
or robo trucks, uh,
mhm,
or a trucking company. Anyway, it didn't count any of the things, the list that I just gave you.
right.
Maybe 3,000 now is way too low.
Yeah, I think if the Robotaxi, you know, next year, if Cybercab comes out, they're making Cybercabs. If things go really, really right, I think they can make 1 million Cybercabs next year,
Yeah.
right? Because of the efficiency of the factory and all that kind of stuff. But it's a highly variable thing. If that happens, or they do even more than that somehow, they really because unbox process and all that kind of stuff. If that happens, and then they get FSD where it goes out to all the car owners, right? And then, so again, if those
Unsupervised.
things unsupervised, and then people can pop into their cars, you and I can put our cars into the network and we can make money from it, right? If those two things happen, and then sales of Model Y go to factory max because of the demand for this is FSD Robotaxi again, then I could see even beyond 3,000 that it could just the wave would just go right. Yeah,
And you didn't even mention Optimus running around the factory doing work.
right, right.
Brian Wong, you got anything left to say? I mean, I think that's
No,
enough. I think people's brains are
yeah,
probably exploding already. So
yeah,
as always, it's totally fun
yeah.
hanging out with you on a Friday afternoon. And to all of you out there, it was fun hanging out with you too. And it's been great talking to you.